Good evening, guys, and happy Saturday to all of your sunshiny faces. So, I don't remember if I mentioned in yesterday's vlog, but I told you guys how, like, we were potentially gonna go to Jewel and do all the shopping today. But I think I told you guys that I actually did change and that we were still going to do it on Sunday like we had planned on. So yes, that is still the case. I have no haul for you guys today. But today, guys, the weather has been absolutely insane. I ended up waking up this morning to the sound of what sounded like a hurricane literally outside of my bedroom window. It was so windy. Like, we had multiple like high winds warnings. I never actually checked to see what the winds got up to, but this was actually, like I said, it was crazy. I don't think I've ever seen it really, like, I mean, probably on occasion, but very rarely seen this bad of wind. And on top of that too, this morning it was raining, so it turned into where the wind was whipping against my bedroom window. That was actually what woke me up today. And on top of that too, like when I went to bed last night, like it's actually been pretty warm. There were several days this week where it's been like 75 out. It was funny too, because I think I want to say it was on Thursday, Jack took the dogs out and I went outside to the freezer, and I had commented to him, I was like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of football. Like, the weather outside was just so perfect. Like, it reminded me of like early season, like in the football season, like when Jack would play football like at the park. Like we'd have football practices there, because it was just so like cool and like, you know, sort of like you could tell though it was like hot and sort of humid like during the day almost, but then by the afternoon it sort of just like cooled off just enough where it was like all I need is kind of just a sweatshirt and I'm like good, you know. And so that was kind of how it felt. Like I said, I think it was on Thursday, but then yesterday it was still nice too, but by the end of the day it had turned into, again, where it started getting really windy. And so Jack actually, because again, we've had weird days where it's like cold and then it's warm again and then it's cold again. Jack still actually had his air conditioner, because they use the air conditioner upstairs. They had one of them upstairs, and so because it was so windy though, and like, you know, it just sort of, you know, they have like the little accordion sort of thing that goes over, you know, the part of the window. It was so windy up there that like that was actually like there was in like just the window in general too, because again, it's not completely like a closed window. It was creating all this suction upstairs, so the door kept sounding like it was opening and closing like all night long, even though it was closed, but like it kept sounding like somebody was like getting ready to like open it, and like it wouldn't open. And so because the air conditioning unit in the window, it kept sounding like somebody was, like I said, like getting ready to like open the door, but then it like wouldn't open because it was still closed, but it was creating all this like suction upstairs because of how bad the wind was. So I had to deal with that like all night long. And my dad kept saying it too. He was like, I kept thinking like Jack, like this morning, because it was still windy this morning, he was like, I kept thinking like Jack was gonna come downstairs every single time and he's not coming downstairs. And I was like, I know, I kept thinking the same thing too, like last night, because I kept hearing it. And so again, it was so windy last night. Then this morning, wake up and it's raining on top of the wind. It was some of the craziest weather, like I said, that I've ever like seen. Just like the rain literally like almost coming in sideways because of how bad the wind was blowing the rain. And it was like downpouring on top of that too. It wasn't like, oh, it's just sprinkling. It was like downpouring, plus the wind is like whipping at the same time. It was crazy. So that's what woke me up this morning. And so that was fun for today, but it ended up by like midday or so, ended up sort of dying down, and it's been fine for the most part. You know, we also checked too, everything on the deck is like sort of all blown around, but like everything's still fine. I was also pretty convinced that our bird feeder in the front yard, we actually have it, like it's in a pot, and but the bird feeder actually has like, we cemented it. But then the bird feeder, like the hook is like sort of in pieces, and we've had the bird feeder fall over multiple times because we also have like a squirrel baffle too. So sometimes the wind will just catch it right and then just knock it over. But I don't know how. We've had that happen, like I said, several times, but this, apparently we haven't got it at the perfect level where, again, no wind is coming close to touching it, because it was actually perfectly fine during this entire thing. And I thought, if one thing's gonna blow over, that's what's going to blow over, and it didn't. So I was actually very, very surprised and happy that that didn't happen. That means that we got it all right and like leveled off and everything, because before, like if it blew, like it originally was perfectly fine for the most part. Then I think we ended up moving it or something like that, so then it wasn't level anymore. And so then it blew over a couple times, and my dad never got it back to like the perfect levelness, sort of like where the pot was like in the ground, right? And then, like I said, we have the cemented bird feeder like in the pot. So finally now it seems like we got it to the perfect level where the pot is like, you know, again at the perfect level that it's not blowing over anymore, which is awesome. So like I said, I thought if anything that was probably going to be what it was. And on top of that too, our grilling gazebo also withstood that, because I was pretty convinced that like it was also possibly gonna blow away, because like I said, it was really, really bad, really windy outside. But no, it looks like everything was good for the most part. Again, it just looks like our chairs sort of got, our lighter weight chairs too got like sort of blown around a little bit on the porch. But as far as everything else goes, looks like we are good. Nothing, like I said, we didn't sustain, it looks like, any damage or anything like that from the wind. But again too, it was pretty crazy. We've, you know, like I said, I've never really seen that strong of winds, and also too, the rain was just what was pretty crazy this morning. So, I ended up actually, I made dinner for tonight. Again, I'm sticking to my meal plan that I wrote down on the calendar. I ended up making soup for dinner tonight, and on top of that too, I also ended up making homemade, bread as well, just to sort of go with it, which it was like a French bread, which I make in the bread machine, and so normally everybody loves it. However, I forgot to, normally when I make it, because I don't use bread flour, and that's like, it's just, we have like a Cuisinart like bread machine. I did tons of review reading on it and everything like that, and it was one of the best ones and had like the most options and things like that too, and I really love it. I don't use it quite as frequently as I probably could, but I do use it a lot, and like, you know, it's very convenient. It took me maybe about 5 to 10 minutes to honestly make homemade bread this morning, because I just had to throw a couple ingredients in the bread machine. So but the one thing is that there's like certain settings on it, like the type of crust you want, like light, medium, or dark. And with the French bread, it says to use either light or medium, and so I used medium, but I've made this bread multiple times before. I always go with the lighter one, because the medium is like very, like, it's almost too sort of crispy, and also too because I use all-purpose flour instead of bread flour, just because again, we use, you know, if we need flour for anything, then obviously I'm going to need it for all purpose instead of just for bread. If I'm like, oh, I'm making something else that doesn't, you know, that I need some other type of, you know, flour for, I don't want to use, you know, have to use just bread flour. There's not a huge distinctive ton of difference too if you wind up using one or the other. However, when I make it, because I have noticed this in the past as well, it is a little dense. So what I will do is like take out maybe about 1/4 of a cup. So I think it's 4 cups for a 2-pound loaf. I will normally wind up taking out about 1/4 of a cup, and normally that's like the perfect, like we got it just right. And like I said too, with light. Well, again, I was in a hurry to make it this morning, and I was just reading the, you know, the ingredients, everything like that. I put in the full amount of bread, you know, of flour for making the bread, and then also too, I used the medium because that was what was preset instead of the light, which is, like I said, what I preferred. And so again, I ended up, it was really good bread still, but it wasn't what I'm used to or I prefer. So we had that with soup, and I made like the vegetarian, I think it was like cheese tortellini spinach soup, which was really good. I think it's only like a 4 ingredient or 5 ingredient, maybe something like that, soup recipe. That, like I said, is pretty convenient. And then we just did it with, you know, like I said, the bread, which also too, I had both done at the exact same time, like, because I didn't add the tortellini until the very end. And so I put them in right when the bread was being done cooking. So we had like warm fresh bread with the hot soup at the perfect, like the tortellini were like just perfectly done too. I had everything timed out so perfectly. I was like, wow, this worked out really well. And also too, because of the time that I actually put the bread in was also like at the perfect time for like when dinner was ready. Like what, like, you know, we wasn't like, okay, we're gonna have to eat at like 6:30, 7 o'clock because I'm still cooking food or something like that, or you know, the bread's still, you know, baking or whatever. It was like I had everything done at 5 o'clock, which is when we sometimes try and eat dinner. It sort of depends, but I had everything done like on the button. So it was actually worked out perfectly well for tonight. I think we're gonna do hamburgers for tomorrow because it's not supposed to rain and it's not supposed to be windy tomorrow. So we got, like I said, we're gonna do that. I just have to get buns at Aldi tomorrow. And I also want to remember to get pickles because we're out of pickles and I love pickles with my burgers. So I need to pick that up as well, and just hamburger buns. Those are the only two things we need at Aldi. And then I got my list for Jewel, and then we're gonna have to go to what's it called, to Walmart actually, because I just realized I'm out of coffee creamer. And the thing that stinks is that we went there yesterday to get Jack's TV, and we also picked up a gallon of milk yesterday too. I should have just picked up the coffee creamer then, but because we have to go to the bank, we're like right next to Walmart anyway, so it's not like we're driving out of our way. So I guess that'll work out okay, but it's just one more stop I have to make tomorrow, whereas we could have just done Jewel and Aldi tomorrow and then just been done. Now I also have to make a quick run into Walmart to grab coffee creamer. On top of that too, guys, I'm kind of happy because it's daylight savings, and that means I get a whole extra hour of sleep. So while I thought I was going to bed a little bit later today, I'm like, no, it's actually very early right now. So I guess that's kind of a good thing, but I am going to actually go and take a shower now and get to bed so I can get to bed early. I will see you guys though all in tomorrow's vlog with a haul for you guys. If you guys did enjoy today's vlog, make sure you guys give a big old thumbs up. If you guys are new, we'd love if you'd subscribe, and I'll see all of your sunshiny faces tomorrow. So bye guys.